We'll start with yours truly. I'll be doing a talk on tech bridges and technologies that can improve the retailing experience. All right, cool. And just a note, I think, Jackie, you found the name of that plugin that you were talking earlier? Power Editor. So if anyone had a note to find out what that name was, it was Power Editor. So that's a plugin you can look into for Facebook. All right. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Cool. Well, I already introduced myself at the beginning, but I'll just go back over my background. Once again, I'm Tamara Austin, if anyone wasn't here at the very beginning of the day. I'll talk a little bit about how I came to open source fashion, a little bit about where my background lies. And my focus today is on technology and the in-store experience. So I'll talk a little bit about the new wave of retail, or the landscape of retail. And, oh, it's not? Oh, it's in the way? Okay. Awesome, awesome. I'll talk about retail and the landscape and why we need technology to help improve the in-store experience. I'll talk a little bit about the in-store experience and brick and mortar and what the viability still is there. We're in an age where we think, technology is going to take over everything. I'm glad Dawn talked about how even for her primarily online brand, she still does the pop-up stores to get in front of customers, to get where they are. And so I'll talk a little bit about that. And then I'll jump into the technologies to highlight. I'll talk about 5 trends or 5 categories of technology and just identify some key players in there that can help with the in-store experience. I'll give a little case study or show an example of one store that's doing really cool things and kind of a futuristic way to shop in store. And then I'll talk a little bit about navigating the tech landscape, because even though there's all these cool products that are out there for your specific brand or your specific retail store, there might not be a good fit. And in that case, you might start to think about, hey, can I roll my own solution, or can I work with someone on developing something that really works for me? And that's definitely not impossible or not out of the realm of possibility. And so I want to talk about ways to make that happen. All right? So a little bit about me. In the center there, you see Washington, D.C. That's where I live. And that's where I'm involved with open source fashion up there. So when you hear DC, you don't think fashion side of fashion tech. It's definitely a smaller community there, but a community that is on the rise and is interested in gaining more prominence. What is pretty big in DC is the tech community and some of the stuff that they've been able to build up outside of the Silicon Valley or outside of New York, where you're thinking, oh, big tech, fast tech. There's been a lot of great success stories to come out of DC. And so that's been exciting there, that culture. I myself come from a tech background, computer science major in school. I then went to work for a defense contractor where I worked on command and control systems for drones or unmanned air vehicles. After that, I went to work for Red Hat, where I was an IT consultant. And so they're a big open source solution provider. So we talked a little bit about open source software and what that means. I won't get into that, but Red Hat is a big player in that space. And so I worked there on some pretty cool projects. One was like a communication system for trains, for them to talk to the tracks in order to prevent accidents. So that's kind of where my expertise lies. And then I started OpenStile, which you see up there, which has really only been a few months. But I wanted to take my technical background and apply it to something that was a little more creative, something that was a little more fun to do. And so that's something I've been playing around with and something I've been getting off of the floor. So it's definitely interesting to see in DC how a lot of people are kind of walking away from the defense contractors or from the big box tech solutions and starting their own products that might be more aligned with their passions or their interests. Okay? So that's a little bit about me. And OpenStyle, it's basically a way for shoppers to share their personal style wants and needs with clothing stores ahead of time. And the overall goal is to make the customer experience more engaging, more fulfilling for them. And so this is an example where we're trying to use tech to improve the in-store experience. And so that's what got me interested in this topic. Okay? So a little bit about retail and where we are and why it's important to play up that customer experience. So this timeline is taken from a book, The New Rules of Retail, which is really good. Gives a little historical perspective of where we are. But basically there's been 3 waves. There was the first wave, which was 1850 to 1950, where it was all producer power. So this was a time period that started where there was maybe 60 million people in the United States, spread out across 38 cities. Most people lived on rural farms. So really there weren't options when it came to retail. That Sears catalog, that mail-in catalog that came, that was really it. Or the rise of the department stores that came in that period, that was their only option. So even if the pricing was off, even if the customer experience was horrible, it's like, where else are you going to go? So you have to buy here. So all the power was with the producer. The second wave of retail, which came from 1950 to about 2000, that's where we start seeing the marketing-driven economy. So there's enough options now that you need to entice shoppers to choose you, or you have to engage them in some way. So anyone like Mad Men? The show Mad? Yeah, one of my favorite shows. Sad it's going off the air, but this is the rise of the Mad Men era, where they're now targeting you through television, through print ads, and really enticing you to buy a certain product. All right? And then the third wave, which is what we're in now, is started in 2000. And this is where the power shifts from the producer all the way to the consumer. There's so many options. For anything we want nowadays, we can find limited sources who could provide that for us in different means, either online, in store. Basically, there's so many options now that consumers don't necessarily purchase things because they need them. They don't purchase items anymore. They purchase experiences, because that's what's more engaging for them. So this is the period where now customer experience is really king. And if a customer is in your store or engaging with your product, and it's either not speaking to them specifically, or the experience is off, they could walk outside of your store and go across the street and find what they want, or they could go online. There's a limited source, so we really need to appeal to them there. Okay? So given that customer experience is king, we want to find ways to improve it and to make it better and to make it stand out for your brand or for your store. And a lot of times we overlook the idea that technology can help us make that customer experience pop. You know, a lot of times when we think about the human factor and being emotionally engaging, we don't think ones and zeros. We don't think about technology, but they really can go hand in hand to make some really cool experiences. And so applying technology to the in-store experience or the brick and mortar, it allows for you to bridge the online and offline experience. Has anyone here purchased something in person in the store, but did research on it online before they went to get it? Anyone? Yeah, lots of people. So that is a pattern that a lot of us as consumers follow. We discover online and then we buy in store. So with technology, you can help, again, bridge those experiences so they're not distinct or they're not one or the other. They have to work together to appeal to us nowadays. Technology can help the in-store experience be emotionally engaging or offer shoppers this idea of shoppertainment. They're going to have a really cool, fun experience while they're in your store. And then the other thing was technology. It really has to match the personality of the retailer and the brand. So we'll look at some cool stuff like virtual reality and all these cool cutting edge technologies, but if that doesn't go along with your brand, that might be vintage or might be something that clashes there. You got to find the right fit, the right tool for the problem. All right? And just talking a little bit more about in-person viability, because some of you all might have online brands, so you might be thinking, well, I don't have a store. Does this stuff really apply to me? I'm so glad Dawn, she had to run out, but she mentioned how for her, she did the pop-up shops because it got her in front of shoppers. It got her where they are in their neighborhoods. And you're seeing a lot of online brands coming to this realization as well. You see Rent the Runway, they have pop-up shops now. You see Amazon even moving into physical retail because they know that it gets them right in front of the retailer. And it doesn't have to be a permanent brick and mortar space. the idea of pop-up shops is really cool and flexible in that, maybe 3 weeks at a time or a month at a time, you're at a certain location, and then you expose more shoppers to your brand, and then you can bring them along with you to your online experience. Okay? And this is just a cool chart I wanted to plug out. You might not be able to see the exact numbers, but this was put together by Mike Gaffrey at Yelp. So a really good service to find in-store places. And he basically, for each industry, he kind of identified what the local coefficient was versus what the online coefficient was. And not to get too technical about it, but basically how for some industries, like books, for example, the online coefficient is 0.73. Like, you're more likely to buy a book online. But for some industries, clothing included, shoes included, it's not necessarily the case where online has totally taken over the market. So again, these numbers are a little off because it's more of a bridged experience. We discover online but buy in store. But it's something to keep in mind that brick and mortar isn't necessarily going away altogether. All right? Cool. So some technologies that can help us with the in-store experience or to make that more engaging for the shopper. I want to highlight 5 different categories, and then I'll identify some key players or some cool stuff happening in those spaces. So the first one actually came up when we started talking about iBeacon, but the geofencing or geo-targeting. So now I can be in a store and I get a specific message sent to my phone that's just for me. So you can do some really cool things there when it comes to retail. The idea of virtual reality. When we talk about being emotionally engaging, what's more engaging than a 3D world created around you? You could really get yourself involved in that, and it could really stir up some cool emotions inside of you that help with the retail experience. The Internet of Things, this is something that's thrown around a lot, or people hear about, your fridge telling you when you need milk, or we have vacuum cleaners that kind of clean on their own, or you could program the heating and all that stuff from your phone. So there's a lot of opportunity for the Internet of Things in your home, but there's also some opportunity in retail as well. The next one is, which is really popular, mobile payments, and being able to not have to take out your wallet and take out your credit card, using all the devices that we wear every day that are seamless for us to make our payments. And then the last one is real-time analytics. And Renee, who spoke earlier, talked about how big data is, cool now, and it's reinvigorating data sciences. And there's just so much you can learn from having a lot of these different reference points. You could really learn so much about a single person using big data and real-time analytics. Okay? So now to jump into each of them. So geofencing, geo-targeting, definitely the main player there is iBeacon that we brought up earlier. And this is what Jackie was talking about. So this is the device that you could fix to the wall, and then it uses Bluetooth communication to talk to you on your iPhone. And what this really allows to happen is personalized experience. Tamara, can be in the store looking at a pair of jeans in aisle 7, and I get a different message than someone else who's in the store in maybe aisle 3 looking at a shirt, based off of what our needs and wants are. And so that would make us more likely to buy. If you're just shooting ads at me that make no sense or that I don't care about, I'm less likely to make a purchase. But if you're telling me, oh, these jeans are on sale because I've been looking for these pair of jeans, I'm more likely to buy. So with iBeacon, there are some really cool apps that you can plug into it. So definitely check out that space, and it may be something that in your own store or in your own pop-up shop, you can program some or hook some applications into iBeacon that can send really cool messages to your shoppers that are specific to your brand. All right. So the next technology, which is always so cool, is virtual reality. And a lot of times it seems very far off in the future, but it really isn't. There's a lot of different products coming out of that space. So the one in the middle is actually from North Face. They did a virtual reality experience at South by Southwest. They debuted this, and now they've taken it to some of their flagship stores in Chicago and New York. But really, when you think of North Face, you think of outdoors, you think of being in the wilderness, you know, rock climbing, fishing, all of that stuff. So now you could experience all of that with virtual reality. Their technology they're using is called Jaunt. So that's one player in the space. But there's a few others. On the left, you see Oculus Rift, which has been getting a lot of press. That's Facebook's product. And over on the right is Google Cardboard, which is really just, when you look at it, it's a flat cardboard box that they give you, and you can assemble it and plug in your phone and create a virtual reality experience. And some people really like that plain cardboard box, because now you can brand it with your own label. You can make it look like part of your brand in your store. So that's a really cool opportunity there. All right, Internet of Things. Again, this is a bigger, probably a bigger topic in the home. Recently, Amazon released these little buttons that you could put on something like your washing machine, and when you press the button, it tells Amazon, hey, I need more Tide, and it automatically mails you more Tide. And that makes sense, you know. I'm not thinking about it when I'm in the store. I'm thinking about it when I'm trying to do a load of laundry, and I realize I don't have any more Tide. I just hit the button, and boom, it's ordered. In retail, Internet of Things, it really still hooks onto the RFID technology. That's been a while. That's been around a while, and it's really popular. But using it in a way that it really can make a pair of jeans talk to you, or it can make a hat talk to you, or a pair of shoes. You know, it can now go along with the iBeacon and that personalization. That technology you can leverage so that you're really talking to your individual shoppers when they're in your store. All right. The next category, mobile payments. And so how many have used their iPhone to purchase coffee or something already? Have used iPay? Okay. All right, so it's already, gaining traction there. But now the smartwatch is going to have that NFC technology that helps with it, and other things that are more seamless than our wallets or our credit cards, like Jawbone. They just released that they're going to integrate with Amex. So now you're wearing that one of those fitness bands, and you can now check out and pay with that. And so what that really helps to do is make the whole experience more seamless. And I'm not sure, you know, I don't know how many people have to really fumble to get their credit card, but the idea of I just flick my wrist to pay versus I have to dig in my purse, you know, that really makes a transaction easier to happen. Okay. And then real-time analytics. There's definitely a lot of different players in this space. I wanted to highlight some new cutting-edge technology, because this kind of this helps us transition into talking about navigating technology as a whole. But these are two products that came out of New York Fashion Tech's lab that they have, their accelerator program. So it's in New York. If any of you are working on a fashion tech product or are interested in that stuff, Pavan has a really close relationship with one of their board members. He talked about his open source fashion being involved in the podcast. So one of the people they interviewed was who runs this New York Fashion Tech Lab program. So definitely a good connection if you're in fashion tech space and thinking about that stuff. But these were two companies that recently came out of their accelerator program, and they're big into real-time analytics. And the SKU IQ product, they're specifically into bridging that online-offline experience and that omni-channel retailing experience that a lot of people talk about, and just that works more with our lifestyles and how we buy nowadays. Okay? And so this is the case study, or the kind of way of the future. I'm not sure if we're necessarily going there, but who here has heard of the store Hointer? I think I'm saying that right, or I think that is. But they have a flagship store in Seattle, and basically when you walk in, there are very few sales associates at all. You walk up to a pair of jeans, you scan it with your phone, you say, I'm size 5 or whatever. Your fitting room is automatically prepped with a size 5 pair of jeans. You go in. When you're done, there's not even sales clerks to check you out. You go and you do the automatic checkout, like kiosk checkout there. So it's kind of interesting because it goes against the way we think, or at least the way I thought, you know, that you could really remove most of the salespeople from a store, but have it still be emotionally engaging. But because of that personalization and because a person feels like, oh, this whole experience is revolved around me, it makes them excited about purchasing, and they like this kind of experience. I don't know, me, I like talking to humans, so I don't know if this is exactly what I would want to do, but basically they're white labeling their technology now, and they're selling it to other stores so they can do similar stuff in their own retail market. So that's kind of an interesting way that we're going, or path that we're taking. All right, so navigating the tech landscape. I wanted to talk about this because, yeah, all these technologies are pretty cool, and they're being used in a lot of maybe big box stores. But for you and your specific brand or your specific store, you might have unique needs that one of these or other technologies that are out there don't necessarily fulfill. And I think one of the beautiful things about technology is that you can take a really niche need or a really niche pain point that might be just specific to you or a handful of people, but you could quickly build a solution for that. So I think sometimes people shy away from technology because a bunch of nerds make it sound so hard and confusing, but it's not, I swear. But I think it's important for you to know how to navigate the technology landscape, because at the very least, if you're not going to build a solution and code it by yourself, you can talk to people who have that ability, and you can make something really cool that works for your brand specifically. So the first point I would say is speak the language. Have a little bit of a background there. And there's a lot of different programs that help with that. There's a lot of women in the room, which is awesome. Obviously, there's not a lot of women in technology, but there are groups that cater specifically to women and teaching them how to code, teaching them the basics of technology. Girl Development is a really big one. Rails Girls is another one. So there's all these different entities that are trying to help whatever community learn technology and learn how to at least speak that language. Also, there's a lot of cool tech meetups. Here in Miami, Venture Hive, which is a pretty cool space, they have an accelerator program. So getting out there and interacting people who are doing awesome things in the tech space, that's really important so that you can meet people and start to speak the language. Staying plugged in kind of goes along with that. I mentioned New York Fashion Tech Lab. Check out their page every once in a while or every time they have a session and look at the technologies that come out of there, because it's really cool stuff that's targeted specifically at fashion tech. But even outside of there, there's so many accelerator programs or so many entities that are spinning up technology quickly. You can just check in on Product Hunt every once in a while, or check out Hacker News. And there may be technology that's not specific to fashion or clothing, but that you can easily see, oh, this can be applied to my industry or what I'm doing. If you do decide that you want to work on a technology for your brand, definitely I recommend the lean startup process or some form of it. Just iterating quickly, identifying the need, which you guys are closest to, you're in the domain, you have that expertise, and moving fast with it, and making sure that you're doing the proper customer discovery. So there's a lot of different books. One I would recommend is Running Lean by Ash Mayura. It really explains the whole process and how you can build up technologies with a low barrier to entry. And then the last thing, I talked about DC and the tech scene there. I think one of the benefits of that tech scene is it's so collaborative. Everybody kind of gets together, they help each other out, they share ideas, they lend a hand when needed. And I think technology is best, or any industry is best, when there is a lot of collaboration, when there's shared knowledge. So that's definitely something I would suggest with that. All right, and then I just have my contact information. It's on the site, and we'll make sure we'll share these slides. But that's basically it. Does anyone have any questions?